Have you recently bought an electric vehicle, maybe a Tesla, or are you planning to? If so, you should know about both the federal and the state tax credits that you may be eligible for. Hi, my name is Chris Passmore and I'm your social media CPA. So if you're planning to buy an electric vehicle, a new Tesla, or maybe a Nissan Leaf, you might be eligible for both a federal and a state tax credit. And the amount of the credit for federal purposes will generally range. It could be anywhere from $2,500 up to $7,500. And at the state level, it depends on what state you're in. I can tell you that my home state of California does have a rebate that's up to $2,000. So you can see that the cumulative amount that you might be eligible for could be up to $10,000. As that relates to the cost of the vehicle is a significant amount. But one thing I want to make sure that you do know, the amount of that federal credit is limited based on the amount of taxes that you owe. So when you calculate your federal income taxes for the year, and if that amount is less than the possible credit, you will only get up to the amount of taxes that you have to pay for. It isn't meant to be above and beyond that or a refundable amount beyond your income taxes too. So a hypothetical example is if you have federal income taxes due of $5,000, that would be the maximum federal credit you could get for buying an electric car, even if you could have received up to $7,500. So that credit amount does range, like I said, anywhere from $2,500 to $7,500 for federal purposes. The amount is based on the battery size of the car, and each car is different. But you can do your homework before you buy your car. You can go on to the IRS website, look up the vehicle that you're interested in, and it will actually show you by year how much that credit will be. For example, just earlier this morning, I looked up the credit for a Nissan Leaf, and it is eligible for a $7,500 federal tax credit. But you can look up the car that you want to get on the IRS website. A few other things that you should know is this is for the purchase of a vehicle, this tax credit. If you are leasing, generally that tax credit goes to the manufacturer and not to you as the lessor. It may be factored into your deal, but the actual tax credit itself will only be for you if you purchase the vehicle. And as it relates to the purchase, it only applies to the original purchaser. If you buy that vehicle secondhand, and even if the first owner did not take advantage of the credit, you are not eligible as the second or subsequent owner. Only the original owner is available and can get that tax credit deduction or amount back on their tax returns. Another important thing for you to know about is the tax credit is eligible up until the manufacturer sells 200,000 units of that vehicle. Once it surpasses that amount, the credit begins to phase out. So right now you have two manufacturers that have already exceeded that amount. You can no longer get a tax credit for it, and that is for Tesla and for GM. So that's important because if you were planning to buy a brand new Tesla and thought this credit was available for you, it would no longer be the case as they exceeded that sale quota of 200,000. But there are several other manufacturers out there. I believe the next one in line as far as the most sold cars is the Nissan Leaf, so it's still eligible, but it is the next closest one to phasing out. But either way, you want to do your homework before buying that car because, as I mentioned before, this credit could be a significant amount as it relates to the cost of the car. So those are the basics of the program as it is today. One thing you should be aware of, there is new legislation being proposed. It's called the Green Act. It's a big thing that the Biden administration is supporting, and it will possibly change and expand the tax credits available for electric vehicles. One of those possible changes is the increase in that 200,000 unit threshold that I mentioned earlier, up to 600,000 units. So those manufacturers that have exceeded that amount now may be able to also be eligible for a tax credit for those cars that previously could not. It has not been passed into law yet. It has been proposed, but the Green Act, if it's signed into legislation, should provide additional relief for anyone who buys an electric vehicle. Well, I hope you have found that information useful. If you have any questions about the purchase of your electric vehicle that you planned or maybe that you did recently, please reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to talk through what you may be able to claim on your tax return. Well, thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking with you again.